Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd, ahabati fillah. It's very important to be aware of your options. And as youth of Ahlul Sunnah, living in the West especially, this is specific to those who live in the West specifically, and more in general in non-Muslim societies, that you have to be aware of options. And I could not honestly advise the youth except with that which is from Salafiyah, and that which is from practicality. Because Salafiyah, we don't say Salafiyah is impractical. This is what a lot of the people who either some of the Hizbi groups or sometimes even Salafis or people who have shortcomings in their understanding of Salafiyah. Salafiyah is Islam, meaning it is Orthodox Islam. It is calling to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Sabil of the Salaf as-Salih, on the minhaj, the methodology, those principles, those qawa'id of how to practice Islam that were compiled, if you will, and derived from the textual sources of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that means if we say it's Orthodox Islam and we say that it's the haqq, that means it's practical under all situations. That means for those of us living in the West and in non-Muslim societies. So I wanted to offer a little piece of advice because we get a lot of questions and a lot of issues, especially more so from young sisters that have difficulty, practicing Islam in their homes and difficulty with how they fit into the society. And because sisters are generally have less options. So what I wanted to discuss very quickly is, if we look here very shortly, this is advice for the youth in general. Young brothers and young sisters. Sisters often, when they come to Islam, they are often given the choice of, okay, sister, you're a Muslim, you need to get married. And while there is khair in that, because the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ma'ashar al-shabab, man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. The Prophet ﷺ said, O youth, and he addressed the youth, those amongst you that are able, then they should marry. And that's because, and then he ﷺ mentioned the reasons, some of the reasons why, that it's safer for lowering your gaze, and it's safer for protecting your private parts. And we know and understand this, and it doesn't require extra discussion about those issues. However, when we're unable to find a suitable, righteous spouse, what should we do? The Prophet ﷺ commanded us to fast. Okay, fasting is prescribed for you. And that this is a means for dealing with some of our desires. But getting back to the crux of what I want to talk about here, ahabati fillah, is that often we have three options for the sisters and perhaps for the brothers as well. And as we mentioned, marriage is one of them. Education is another. And a career is a third. Because when you live in the West, you don't have the structure of the traditional societies. What applies in Saudi Arabia and applies in Indonesia and applies in Nigeria does not necessarily equate to what we can do in Sweden, in America, in France, in Germany, in Italy, and other places, or even perhaps other non-Western societies that are non-Muslim societies. It doesn't equate the same because the options aren't the same. We don't have a traditional family structure, generations of Muslims, grandparents, everything in the same kind of tarbiyah and the same kind of environment, to where when people want to marry, families get together, or they marry their cousins, or whatever the situation may be. We don't have those structures. And often, many of us, we come to Islam, so we need practical steps on how to practice Islam, how to practice Kitab wa Sunnah to the best of our ability. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you're able to. Fear Allah as much as you're able to. So, with that being the situation, if you know that you'll probably have to work, and most of us do, even sisters, even a lot of households now have to be two parent households, or need two income sources because of the price of living is so expensive. And that's happening, by the way, in the land of Tawheed here in Saudi. That's changing. It's becoming very widespread. The women are all in the markets, they're in the doctor's office, they are everywhere, and they're mixed. And so what we have to deal with, the reality of our situation, is you fear Allah as much as you can. So if you have to get a job, which you do, most of us, especially men, then it may not be the ideal situation, but you're going to strive and take things step by step. It's better than you sitting and begging the masjid and sitting and saying, no, everything's haram and I'm just going to sit and do nothing. No, that's not from the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Instead, rather, you should strive to find some sort of halal living and be as halal as possible. Halal as possible, because we know the obstacles, we know the challenges of living in a non-Muslim society. And in fact, for your information, in the Muslim societies, even that's become, the ikhtilat is becoming the standard everywhere. It is the standard pretty much everywhere, except for in Saudi Arabia, and now that's becoming the case in many of the situations. If you go to the mall, if you're in the you're a doctor. So should you not be a doctor anymore? No, we need doctors. So you're going to have to fear Allah as much as you can in that environment. And that's what I want you to understand, ahabati fillah, that Islam is not just, it's not just theoretical, but it's practical. So, therefore, with these options being the case, I don't advise people just to rush and just find anyone just to marry. No, marriage is very serious. You want to last. We have a lot of young sisters, they become Muslim, they marry quickly, they're divorced, one child. Next thing, 2 children from another marriage. Next, 3 from another. And they have a collection after a while. And this is problematic for us as a Muslim community. And so it's very important to not just rush just to fulfill a financial need, but begin to develop yourself. You're going to develop yourself. You can do it online. That's a halal way. You can do online education. Now there's so many opportunities to study online. Do so. Build yourself so that way you're a better mother and you have education and you have the ability, if something happens to your husband, to fend for yourself. Likewise, and that relates to having a career, having a goal, a focus. You can be a designer, a house designer, I forgot what you call them, and a fashion designer, whatever the case may be. But there are things that you can do that are lawful, that can be a part of your passion in going forward. And so I encourage us, because we are dealing with the reality, and that doesn't contradict Kitab wala Sunnah, or the call to Tawheed, because so many people, they seem to have a misconception or a disconnect there. Young brothers, strive, educate yourself, because education is what is allowed for me to live in Muslim countries after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was having that intention, but it was also getting a bachelor's degree in political science, and it was also getting a master's in Islamic studies for my own use. It's also striving to, those a certificate to teach English as a second language. That gave me the means to do my talab al-ilm. That gave me the means to stay in Saudi Arabia and seek knowledge. So your education and those things, they give you an income, they give you a direction, they give you a self-esteem, they give you, they open up other possibilities. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go to the university or everybody has to do this. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, don't shut off the doors to yourself, because not everybody's going to get into the Islamic university, then graduate, and then going to have a community that's going to support them. Either they're going to be imam, or either they're going to find some other means. No, many of the students don't even have that, even if they graduate. And then if they graduate, then what? You don't want to graduate, you studied all that benefit, and then you come back and you're a janitor. Okay, this is a problem. This is what happens. So this is why my advice to the youth is to secure yourself and build yourself And all of those things will be a means to attain if you want hijrah. There will be a means to attain for you if you want a righteous, educated spouse, if that's what you want. There will be a means for you to attain your goals and not be so dependent on community or other people to suffice for you. And we ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.